Hi. So, our next session is about being agile. This is what's going to get you that better understanding at Agile Values, better, more evolved Agile delivery, and understand how to create that foundation to be more productive, more efficient, more effective, high quality, and higher value. When we look at Agile Values, your Agile Values are your why. So going back to Simon Sinek's circle, these are your clear values to any organization and manifest themselves in the behaviors that demonstrate while using Agile frameworks, meetings, and techniques. So these are your guiding principles at being agile, how you're going to work together. Now, when we look at Agile Value, some of the common Agile values people have are deliver faster, efficient, higher quality, keep up with the team, keep up with the competition. Now, looking at those, do we see those as values? If we were to look deep into them, are they what's going to drive a team to be agile, to be effective, efficient, and high quality? No, because those are outcomes. They're not values. And what happens is it creates a system within the teams on how they deliver, which will hurt. It will create frustrations. So a bad system can destroy good people because we're focusing on the wrong things. We're focusing on the what. And when you focus on the what, it's going to create a frustrating environment. And that frustrating environment creates the bad system, which in the end, as per Gary Motorshed, will destroy good people. An organization without clear agile values that support its mission, resources, and constraints will lead to those frustrations across the board, not just with the team, with leadership, with management, with other teams, with other departments that they work with. So we need to understand that having a good set of agile values that not only links that the team can work with, that the team can fall behind because they are the owners of those agile values, and that they link up to the vision, mission, and value statements for the organization, that improves overall value. The value of agile values, you're communicating on what should be included. Right? You have a clear description of its meaning, the purpose with context. Right? You are showing the expectations not only of the team but of the leadership to demonstrate how you're going to complete your day-to-day work, your day-to-day behaviors. So if we look at Google, for instance, Google, as we're all well aware, they're very innovative. They provide a lot of changes on a regular basis. Depending on the teams within Google, sometimes they deploy almost on a daily basis or even sooner. So they have their own agile values, and they even use those agile values within their company site. So if we look at Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and usable. Right? They're committed to significantly improving the lives as many people as possible. Everyone should be able to access and enjoy the web. We are committed to making that a reality. That last piece, they are committed to making it a reality so that everyone can have access and enjoy the web. So those are your agile values. And they do link up. They can be traced back to the 4 main values within the manifesto, where you have customer collaboration over contract negotiation. That doesn't mean that you don't do contract negotiation. The values within the manifesto, when it says this over that, means that it takes a priority. It is not what is solely done. And that is where you get some of the instances where people will say Agile doesn't work, because they're solely focused on that one component within the value. They still need to work on the other side. It's just to have the discipline to focus on one without forgetting the other, because the other is what supports, what helps improve. So as an example for myself, I worked with multiple technology teams, development teams within an Agile, when using Agile frameworks. I've had worked with teams where they've taken the Agile values almost verbatim and used the first part of each of the values as this is how we're going to do the work. And it turned into a cowboy type environment where they did whatever they wanted, they built whatever they built, and they deployed whenever they wanted to deploy. Because to them, that's what they felt was Agile, to do whatever they wanted. What happened was the way they worked together and the way they deployed and the way they got the stories out, it created a large data breach for the organization, almost to the point where the organization could have been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this data breach. And as we worked through, we identified the data breach, we worked through it, we had to record it. The data that was breached or that was sent out was retrieved and not used, luckily. So they weren't fined. But there was a black mark that was put on the organization because of this team. When we worked together now, we focused on being Agile. We focused on the why. We had a better understanding of the why we wanted to move forward, why we wanted to build, why we were building this system. And then we looked at the how and how they wanted to continuously deploy and provide the value and the expectations from the clients and meet those needs. And then we focused on the what, which was the framework, so that it all ties together. Now, this team had a backlog of tickets that was large, very large. Some of the tickets that were on there were some were over 5 years old. And as we were working through and we got to the what, and we started kind of being consistent and disciplined, some of the things we asked and with each other was, is this ticket that's 5 years old still have value? Does a client still need this particular feature? Some of the tickets we were able to remove, but for the most part we weren't. And as we talked about customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction, the employee satisfaction was low. No one was really enjoying the work. When we look at customer satisfaction, there was a large portion that was upset that some of these expectations they never received, they never seen, because the team just did what they want. They had higher priorities and they got forgotten about. So when we moved on and we started focusing from the why out, an interesting thing happened. A very interesting thing happened was that now we had this large backlog. It just kept building and building and building, and the work was being done, but it wasn't being done effectively. And we created specific release dates. We created the discipline within the teams to get the work done. The team size didn't increase. We didn't add any new tools to help them be more efficient. They had the tool set they needed to become efficient. Within 2 months, we were able to drop that backlog down by a third, while we were still adding new stories to that backlog. So already within 3 months, we dramatically improved productivity. And not only did we improve productivity, we improved quality, because now we had everything in place to ensure that it was structured deliveries of high quality while still meeting all the demands and the expectations of those deliveries. Within 6 months, the backlog was down to a quarter of what it was. And then a couple months later, we were writing stories, analyzing them, streamlining them, refining them, and putting them in the next sprints. The amount of work we were able to complete within 6 months was we were able to basically wipe out the backlog. At the same time, the customers were ecstatic with the rate of delivery, with what was being delivered, and how effective it was being delivered. At the same time, the teams were overjoyed with how they were producing, their productivity. So we can see how moving from the why out to the what, that is a great example of how it can all tie together, and how it works when you just change the mindset and ensure that you have the right behaviors going forward. The main idea of Agile is to take small chunks of work and building on top of it, making things iterative. So instead of that big block that you're trying to do in Waterfall, trying to get everything identified at first, you're taking small pieces and delivering it over time. And what this allows is, if you look at Waterfall, you have to have all your requirements identified at the start of the project. That's a difficult thing. Because unless your project is, let's just say, a month long or 2 months long, even then, for 2 months, there could be changes that happen that a feature, a client, or the market doesn't need, and it doesn't get used. I worked on a program that was initially estimated at 8 months. It took 2 years. And they went through and they were identifying all the requirements ahead of time. Reason why it took 2 years? A couple things. Yes, all those requirements, but there was all these changes that were coming in that were slowing us down that we had to implement. And we had to go back and then go back and redo everything. It wasn't done iteratively. We kept pushing out the dates. Finally, we completed everything we needed to complete. And a week before we were about to implement, senior leadership decided to shelve the program, shelve the project. All the work has been done. It was ready to go into production. One of the reasons why it was shelved was one of the last things that was tested was the architecture and processing times. And what they found was the processing times went past the window that the current processes allowed. And this was not functional because if it went past those processing times, and it went by a lot, not by 5 minutes, it went by hours, that areas like in stores would not be able to open in time because the processing was still going on. So we worked through it as best we can, even when we tried to become as efficient as we can, trying to make that efficient, it still was passed. So the leadership decided, like, nope, we're shelving it. We can come back to it later. We had to still deliver the code. It's just now the code sat there for years before it was brought back, because now the processing time was improved and they were able to implement it. But that was 8 months worth of work. 2 years worth of work. Multiple resources working through this. And it was shelved. Now, I'm not sure how long the organization took to re-implement it. I know it was. Unfortunately, I left that organization for another organization, and they implemented the work. I just don't know how long and how frustrating it was because they had to revisit all that work to redo it. So when we look at agile processes, it is about making the complex less complex. You're mapping out your path as you go because you're following a vision. You're not trying to get it all right from the start. You have a product vision, you have a service vision, and you're incrementally adding to the product to meet that vision. You're seeing the actual progress as you go. Again, that 8-month project that turned into 2 years, it was difficult to see project. It was progress because we were seeing, it's like, yeah, okay, we got to this level. Oh, okay, we fall back. Oh, we got to this level. Oh, we fall back. It was the constant changes that was creating issues. And with making the complex less complex, now you're able to take an easier change in strategy and direction. You're able to meet. And that's because you're able to fail fast. You're able to take what you've learned and take what you've done and add on to it. If something changes with the customer, with the market, with the teams, you're able to adjust so that you can still build that vision and meet the needs. So think about it as a Polaroid picture. Right? When you take a Polaroid picture, the picture doesn't come out right off the bat. You have a vision of what you want to see. It's seeing the pieces start as it starts to be developed. Then the vision of your product or service becomes clear. So some things we need to understand is it's not what we think is there are a lot of misunderstandings of the agile mindset and behaviors and actions. It is not a do whatever is needed to get it done. It is not everyone for themselves. It is not about getting it done fast. And it's not really about making changes at any time. right? When I talk about changes in strategy and change in this, it's not like you can, what I mean by not making, you can't make changes at any time is you can't have a developer or someone in the middle of creating something and they're just about to be finished where on that day they turn around and say, okay, nope, I need you to code it this way, right? There are windows when the feedback and changes come in, right? Within each of the processes, within each of the frameworks, they have that window. You have your sprint review, your demos, where you get that feedback to ensure that what you're building is what you need to build. Right? That's when you can accept the change and adjust. Not in the middle of an iteration. The problems that happen with these type of mindsets is, again, when you're either just following the steps or not. You're either very strict. You've turned the Agile framework into small waterfall projects where this needs to be done, or it turns into complete and utter chaos and nothing runs, nothing works the way it should work. There's a lack of understanding of what is actually being produced. Again, we go back to the golden circle, right? If you have the opportunity, go to YouTube and watch his TED Talk. And that gives you the understanding of this part right here, the lack of understanding of what is being produced. And that understanding is your why. Why is this product or service being produced? When you understand the why, then the how and the what, easy. There is that understanding. That helps with the vision of going forward. There's some misguided views on performance from management. Right? If you look at burn down charts or velocity or capacity, there's that lack of understanding. And we look at the first session where we talked about those different percentages of of management not understanding Agile values. That's 51%. Right? So that lack of understanding leads to a misguided view of performance. There's no clarity on the structure and growth. It's, here's your framework, do it. Maybe also using the wrong tools and partnerships that don't fit within the organization, that fit with Agile values. And with all that, what ends up happening is you're doing Agile, you're not being Agile. So we need to understand that being Agile is about teamwork and building trust. So you have those self-managed teams to get the work done, so that the servant leader is there to help them get the work done. When we look at the definition of self-managed teams, is a given group of employees are collectively responsible for the projects they work on. And specific employees, who are not necessarily managers, take leadership over tasks and initiatives based on their expertise rather than hierarchy or title. This is where you'll see the term generalist and specialist, and how teams overlap their work and their capabilities to function as a highly productive team. Some of the things that kind of not discourage self-managed teams, but impede them, that kind of slow them down, is the traditional view of organizations. You have the typical organization, which is a top-down, command and control, where they'll micromanage the team. Or you have the matrix view. It's still kind of command and control, but you've created teams where they are siloed depending on their role or their title, and because of that, now you've created differing priorities within the teams on the silos, on what should be done. So it's kind of implicit command and control. So what does leadership need to do to change? They need to become those servant leaders to help others grow and build out trust. They need to provide the teams like guidance instead of direction. And what I mean by the difference between guidance and direction, guidance is your understanding of the vision and the path that they need to achieve to get the value for the product, the service, for the client, or internal or external. Right? They're not going out and just directly telling them, this is what you're building, and this is how you're going to build it. The teams know what they need to build. The teams know how they're going to build it. That's where the trust comes in for self-organizing teams. Leadership will help remove impediments. Right? If there's something that's stopping them or slowing them down from getting the work done, they help remove it. And of all that, this now allows leadership to focus on strategy. Strategy for the team, strategy for the department, strategy for the organization. They're giving the vision for the teams to work towards. So there's a different view between traditional and agile organizations. Right? The traditional view is like a triangle. An agile view of an organization is cylindrical, right? It's pieces within each, right? With the leader in the middle helping the teams grow, helping the teams evolve. Now, if we look at an agile organization chart, again, let's go back to Google. Their chart looks like a typical organizational chart. But look deeper. Look at it. You see lines going to each of the individuals. You see the CEO up top, but you see everyone else, all the other executives, with no direct line to them. So they have their teams. So if we go back to this, you will see, so let's use my little marker here. So if you're to see here, you'll see, like, say, the CEO and his bit of team here. And then each executive underneath is focused through here. So this helps. And within the frameworks, again, we talked about how if one team uses Scrum, everyone should use Scrum. No. One framework does not mean it's an agile team. Agile organizations will use more than one framework because it's based on tools. A framework is seen as a tool. And the best tool for the team to make them more effective, that's what's needed. Right? You're ensuring behind at being agile is the behaviors and actions that drive out your outcomes and value. And we've all been agile at some point in our lives. And I've got two examples for you. Either as kids, we've had to build a Lego set, or as young adults that have moved out, we've built our own furniture through IKEA or any other furniture place where you have to build your own furniture. So how have we been agile before? Think about both those examples, and I'm sure we've done it multiple times. I know I've built my fair share of furniture over the years. And I've had a few Lego boxes and sets to build, especially with 2 young kids. So let's go through with furniture as an example. So when we go through, when I first built furniture, is like open up the box and take the instructions and kind of find the piece, find the screws or bolts that needed, and start going from there. That took a lot of time. It would take a lot of time because you're rummaging through. The next time around I built furniture, I remember it's like, oh, okay, that took a while. What can I do to be better? Okay, let's separate everything. So I started separating, I emptied out the box and sort of separated everything and built the furniture. Didn't take as long as last time. Didn't have as many frustrations, but I was still frustrated at times to find what I needed and what to do. As we move forward, then I looked at taking everything out of the box, separating every piece, including the screws and nuts and bolts, and understanding where they were from a numbering perspective, so that when I went through the instructions, it was find the piece, build it, find the piece, build it, and add on to it. I incrementally added, and I became more effectively at incrementally adding. My example for the Lego, if we look at that, is a good example is one of my sons. He had a 3D Lego puzzle type thing to work with. And watching him do it, I wanted him to do it on his own. I wasn't going to help him. He was getting frustrated with how it was being built. Because what he did was he took all the pieces, put them in a pile, and these pieces were see-through. So they were clear plastic, but they were numbered. He was having a hard time digging through all the pieces. He was looking at the diagram and trying to match the diagram with the piece and then look for a number. So as he was struggling, he gave up. And so as an Agile coach, I coached him. I coached him in a way to make it easier for him. What I didn't directly tell him what he needed to do, I gave him the guidance. Right? So he can work as a team. I'm providing the direction. I'm providing the guidance, right? For him to improve upon. So he figured out if he took a piece of paper and marked down the numbers from, I think it was 30. So he marked down 1 to 30, and then he went through and took all the pieces and put the numbers in the right spot. Then he went through the instructions again, and it was easier for him to find the piece, put it together, and now something before where he got frustrated after an hour, he was able to finish within 20 minutes. So we've been agile before in our real lives. It's taking that type of mindset and behaviors and actions into our process, our service delivery, product delivery, whether the product is software or hardware, like building out furniture, building a house, building an app for a phone. The inherent behaviors in the background to become agile and efficient are all the same. Our next session, we are actually going to start going through some of these frameworks. Thank you. Bye.